I never thought betrayal could cut deeper than a bullet wound. I had spent years serving my country, training my body and soul to withstand the unthinkable. I faced hostile fire in the deserts of the Middle East, slept in trenches in Eastern Europe, and held the hands of brothers in arms as they breathed their last. Through all of that, I never shed a tear. But the day I came home and discovered what my fiancée had done to me, that was the day I truly broke. My name is Alex Carter. Born in a small town in Ohio, raised by a grandmother who taught me that love was sacred and promises were iron chains, binding and unbreakable. She had given me her wedding ring before she passed. "For the one you choose," she told me, her voice frail, her eyes still sharp. "Give this ring only to the woman who will guard your heart as I did for your grandfather." And I thought I had found that woman in Sophia. Sophia was the kind of girl who could make a crowded room feel like a stage designed just for her. Blonde hair cascading like a golden river, eyes the blue of summer skies, laughter that sparkled like champagne bubbles. We met at a college fair. She was studying fashion, I was in ROTC preparing for the military. Our worlds couldn't have been more different, but she leaned into me as if I were her missing piece. "You'll protect me, won't you?" she whispered once, her head on my chest as we lay on the hood of my old Ford, staring at the stars. "Always," I promised. And I meant it. When I proposed, it wasn't with a diamond I couldn't afford. It was with my grandmother's ring, the only thing of true value my family had ever passed down. Sophia gasped when she saw it, covering her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. "Alex, it's beautiful," she said. "It feels like destiny." At that moment, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. The deployment. 3 months after our engagement, my orders came through. I was being deployed overseas. Not for weeks. Not for months. For 18 long months. Sophia clung to me at the airport like a drowning woman clutching a raft. "I'll wait," she said. "I'll write every week, I'll send you pictures, I'll keep everything safe until you come home." Her fingers brushed the ring on her hand. She kissed me like her life depended on it. And I believed her. At first, things seemed fine. She emailed me constantly, sent me videos of her at home, selfies of her with my dog, Max, and long, romantic letters filled with promises of forever. But then, slowly the letters grew shorter. The calls less frequent. Excuses began to pile up. "I'm busy with work." The internet was down. I didn't feel well. I told myself it was stress. I told myself I was paranoid. Out there, surrounded by sandstorms and gunfire, loneliness can play tricks on the mind. But the truth was darker than I could have imagined. The discovery. When my deployment finally ended, I returned home eager to surprise her. I had pictured it 1,000 times, walking into our apartment, finding her curled up on the couch, rushing to me with tears of joy as I lifted her into my arms. Reality was a dagger to the chest. When I arrived at the apartment, my key didn't fit. At first, I thought I had the wrong door, jet lag, exhaustion. But no. The number was right. The door was just changed. I rang the bell. A stranger opened the door. "Yes?" he asked, irritation creasing his forehead. "I live here," I stammered. "This is my apartment." "Not anymore," he said and shut the door in my face. Panic surged through me. I called Sophia's number. Disconnected. I rushed to the bank. My accounts, every last one of them, were empty. Years of savings, gone. Finally, I tracked down a mutual friend. And that's when the knife twisted deeper. Sophia had sold the apartment. Not just left it, sold it. She had drained my accounts. And the final betrayal? She had pawned my grandmother's ring, claiming she wanted a fresh start. And the worst part? She told everyone that I had abandoned her. That I wasn't coming back. Some even believed I had died overseas. I stood in the middle of my empty street, staring at the life I once knew, my duffel bag heavy on my shoulder, my chest hollow. For the first time in all my years of service, I broke down and cried. The turning point. Betrayal can shatter you, or it can forge you into something new. For weeks, I wandered like a ghost. I slept in motels, worked odd jobs, anything to keep from drowning in despair. The army had taught me how to fight enemies with guns, but not enemies with pretty smiles and lies. One night, as I sat in a dingy diner, sipping bitter coffee, an old veteran slid into the booth across from me. "You've got the look," he said. "What look?" I asked. "The look of a man who's been gutted, but ain't dead yet." He was right. I wasn't dead. Not yet. And that's when I decided I wouldn't let Sophia's betrayal be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of hers. The plan. Revenge isn't about rage. Rage burns too hot and dies too fast. Real revenge is patient. Cold. Precise. I started by gathering information. The apartment sale records. Yes, she had forged my signature. The bank withdrawals, traced back to her account. The pawn shop where she sold the ring. Security footage, receipts, everything. But that wasn't enough. I needed to know where she was now, what she valued, what she feared. Through some digging, and with a little help from a buddy still serving who had access to certain systems, I discovered she had moved in with a man named Ethan. Wealthy. Older. The kind of man who wore expensive suits and treated women like accessories. Sophia had traded my loyalty for his luxury. Perfect. Because luxury is fragile. It can be ripped away with just the right touch. The first strike. I didn't confront her immediately. That would have been too easy. Too merciful. Instead, I began to unravel her new life piece by piece. I tipped off Ethan, anonymously, about Sophia's history. Carefully worded letters with copies of the documents I had. Photos of the pawned ring, proof of her lies. At first, he didn't believe it. But rich men don't like being made fools of. Doubt is poison, and I poured it drop by drop into his veins. Next, I contacted the authorities about the forged apartment documents. Investigations take time, but they always leave shadows. Sophia started getting letters from lawyers, calls from banks, whispers from neighbors. And all the while, she had no idea it was me. The encounter. It was months before I finally saw her again. She walked into a cafe where I was sitting, arm hooked through Ethan's, draped in designer clothes I had never seen her wear before. She looked radiant. But her eyes darted around like a thief afraid of being caught. When her gaze fell on me, she froze. For a moment, her face was a mask of horror. Then she smiled, brittle and thin. "Alex," she said, voice trembling. "You're alive." "Disappointed?" I asked, my voice calm, steady. Ethan frowned. "You know this man?" Sophia forced a laugh. "Just an old friend." But I saw the panic in her eyes. She knew. Deep down, she knew her time was running out. The siege begins. After that cafe encounter, I knew it was time to escalate. Sophia's life was built on lies, luxury, and illusions. My job was to dismantle it piece by piece, quietly, efficiently, leaving no chance for her to strike back. I had already sown seeds of doubt in Ethan's mind, but I needed the rest of the world to start questioning her credibility too. The bank had initiated an investigation into the stolen funds. Lawyers were looking into the apartment sale. The pawn shop had submitted affidavits confirming her transactions. Sophia began to panic. Small things, a call from an unknown number, a letter from a lawyer, a former friend showing up unexpectedly, made her jittery. She tried to act normal, but luxury doesn't hide fear for long. One evening, I watched her from across the street. She was pacing in the apartment she thought she owned, phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp and frantic. I allowed myself a quiet smile. The chessboard was set. The dominoes fall. It started subtly. Ethan confronted her, showing the proof I had sent anonymously. Her usual charm couldn't mask the panic. He demanded answers. She stammered lies, half-truths, apologies that rang hollow. The more she tried to control the narrative, the faster it unraveled. Next came the neighbors. I had tipped them off about the forgery. Some had already grown suspicious of her lavish lifestyle, given her sudden wealth and mysterious purchases. They began asking questions, murmuring among themselves. Every whispered doubt became a brick in the wall I was building around her. Then the banks, letters piled up, emails flooded her inbox. She called Ethan, blaming him, but he was done believing her. He was no longer her protector. He became the first judge in a trial I had orchestrated from the shadows. The public humiliation. I knew true revenge required a public reckoning. Behind the shadows, I contacted local news reporters, using the forged apartment documents, pawn receipts, and bank transfers to illustrate a story of deceit and theft. Sophia, the glamorous, untouchable woman who once smiled at me with feigned innocence, now had her misdeeds broadcast for everyone to see. Headlines ran, "Local woman accused of fraud, theft, and forgery. Fiancée betrayal. Soldier returns to discover home and savings stolen." The public whispers became loud conversations. Mutual friends distanced themselves. She became a cautionary tale rather than the center of attention. And still, she didn't know it was me orchestrating this. The suspense, the fear, the unknown predator, that was my gift to her. The confrontation. Finally, the moment arrived. A neutral location, the old diner where we used to meet after my college drills. I requested a meeting through a third party, claiming it was about unresolved, personal matters. Sophia walked in, her confidence feigned but eyes scanning the room, anxious. She hadn't seen me in months. I sat, calm, composed, exuding a quiet control that contrasted sharply with her nervous energy. "Alex," she began, a false smile on her lips. "I see you've been busy," I interrupted, voice cold but measured. "Busy lying, stealing, destroying what you couldn't earn." "Impressive." Her face paled. She tried to laugh. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I said. "And now, the truth is catching up." I slid a folder across the table. Inside, every piece of evidence, every email, every bank transfer, every forged signature. She picked it up, eyes widening, hands trembling. "You did all this?" she whispered. "I didn't do it," I said. "I just revealed it." The collapse. Sophia's world imploded. Ethan left her, friends abandoned her, and legal authorities were now pursuing her for fraud and theft. She tried to apologize, to bargain, to threaten, but every move was too late. She called me in desperation once more, voice breaking. "Alex, please. I can fix this." "You could have thought of that before," I replied calmly. "Before you stole everything, before you lied to everyone you claimed to love." In her desperation, she tried to justify herself. I listened silently. No anger. No vengeance needed. Justice had taken over. The closure. I reclaimed what was mine. The apartment, the funds, and, most importantly, my grandmother's ring. But the true victory wasn't material. It was in knowing that Sophia had underestimated me. She thought I was naive, weak, absent, lost in duty. Instead, I returned stronger, smarter, patient, and calculated. I moved into my grandmother's old home. Max, my dog, ran around the yard as if nothing had happened. I rebuilt my life, quietly and purposefully. Friends returned, drawn not by scandal but by the integrity with which I handled the chaos. I didn't seek revenge in anger or hatred. I let time, evidence, and quiet planning dismantle her world. The satisfaction was deeper, more enduring, because it was precise and complete. Reflection. Betrayal cuts, yes, but patience heals. Rage consumes, but strategy preserves. I learned that revenge isn't about destruction for the sake of anger. It's about restoring balance, exposing truth, and reclaiming what was stolen, without letting the betrayal define you. Sophia's life would never be the same. She lost wealth, reputation, and trust. I regained my honor, my property, and peace of mind. And in the end, that's all that mattered. Months later, as I watched the sunset over my hometown, Max at my feet, I finally allowed myself a deep breath. Life was unpredictable. People betray. People deceive. But patience, clarity, and strategic thinking? Those are the weapons that never fail. I smiled, slipping my grandmother's ring onto my finger. The past was gone. The future awaited. And I knew no one would ever take my life, my honor, or my heart without paying the price.